Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Wild Eye Diaries, episode 24. For those of you that have watched the previous two episodes would know that it's been an incredibly busy time for us in the office, and we've had guides pretty much all over the place, hosting privately guided safaris in East Africa, Lake Nakuru, Amboseli National Park, and of course we're in full swing of our Great Migration safaris, which are running smoothly at the moment. If you've been following Gerry and Jono's stories, there's been some big crossings recently, so all great news coming from the Masai. And we've also hosted privately guided safaris to South Luangwa, Mana Pools, and Mike has also been in Rwanda for a privately guided gorilla safari. So there's been a ton of stuff going on, and the guides are pretty much all over the place at the moment. But I'm coming to you from home at the moment. It's a public holiday here in South Africa today, and so we're not in the office, but the work continues behind the scenes. So this week we hear from pretty much all the guides except from Johan. Johan is currently on a Mana Pools and Shataki Springs safari, and signal for him is quite a challenge, and so he basically stays in touch with us from a satellite phone and therefore won't be able to send through any content for this week's episode. So you'll hear from Johan next week, but he's the only guide that we don't hear from. Otherwise we hear from everybody else. I've been in office the last week, and so has Marlon and Trevor, and those that are out in the field, Jono, Gerry, and Andrew, we hear from them. So first up, we hear from Mike. Mike has been in the field for quite some time. He hosted Big Cats and Tuskers Safari, and then he hosted a Great Migration Safari, and then from there went to Rwanda for a privately guided gorilla trek. And he's still there at the moment, on his way back to South Africa tomorrow. So we hear from Mike first, and he shares some really awesome content on both of his gorilla treks up into the mountains with a familiar face to Wild Eye, Linda Clues. And next up we hear from Trevor, who's also spent the week in the office building a lot of good content and material around some new safaris that he's going to be running in 2019. A really exciting one of which is one that I'll be co-hosting with Trevor in March and into April next year, a Serengeti Migration Safari. We're actually adding a third safari to the two existing Serengeti Migration Safaris that we have for 2019, and so a third has recently become available. I shared something on my story last week, and Trevor and I will continue to share some content for that particular safari going forward. And then Trevor will also be hosting Mana Pools as well as South Luangwa safaris in 2019. So if you haven't already been following Trevor's stories, a lot of the content that he's been sharing, it is around those three particular safaris for next year. So Trevor's been quite busy, and he gives us an update on what's been happening in the office. We then hear from Marlon, who by all accounts had one of the best safaris he's ever had in his life, not only just with Wild Eye. Both in Mana Pools and South Luangwa, some of the sightings were absolutely incredible, and he put a really nice video together of some of the sightings that he had, particularly in South Luangwa. And so I really hope you enjoy some of the stuff that he's put together, some spectacular sightings. The guests walked away with incredible images and a lifetime full of incredible images and memories, of course. So that's from Marlon. We then hear from Andrew, who's currently on a privately guided safari. He's in Mashatu at the moment. They've been spending quite a bit of time, particularly in the mornings, in the photographic hides, the sunken photographic hides, getting some really unique shots. And I think today is their travel day, where they head on to malaMala. And the whole focus of this privately guided safari is on the big cats of the regions. And so they were lucky with some real cool cat sightings in Mashatu. And of course, malaMala always produces the goods, and I'm sure they're in for a great time for both in terms of leopard and lion viewing there as well. So Andrew gives us an update from what seems to be quite a chilly Mashatu this morning. Seems to be quite a cold front moving through this southern African region at the moment. And then he heads on to malaMala. And then Gerry, this week we hear something slightly different from Gerry. Gerry has been hosting the Great Migration Safari at the moment, and they've been out all day, 13, 14, 15-hour game drives, leaving first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock, 6:30, and they're only coming back to camp at around 6:45, 7 o'clock at night. So Gerry's literally been out all day, every single day, which is what our Great Migration Safaris are all about. So Gerry hasn't been able to send through some curated content, but what he has done is send through a video, an audio clip rather, explaining the podcast that he put together about a week ago, where he spoke around the busyness of the Masai Mara National Reserve, how it differs from the Mara Triangle where we operate and where our camp is situated, and more specifically around the way the rangers and the vehicles and the guests conduct themselves and operate on the other side of the river, and how they potentially mess up or interfere rather with potential wildebeest crossings, forcing the wildebeest to cross in areas where it's more dangerous, where it's more slippery, where the rocks are, etc., etc. And so basically how these rangers and how these vehicles conduct themselves in a negative way, and how that is to the detriment of the wildebeest crossings. It's a really interesting article, and Gerry did get quite heated about it at one stage, and rightly so. It's an issue that has concerned us as a Wild Eye team for many years now, and this particular crossing that Gerry witnessed, or lack thereof, as a result of the vehicles on the other side, was really one step too far. So Gerry addresses a really important issue in the Masai Mara National Reserve, a big concern of his and for the whole of us, all of us at Wild Eye. But it's not all negative. He does touch on a few positive things on how we believe we can actually change this going forward. So really interesting podcast from Gerry. The link won't be in the video itself. It'll be in the description of the video down below. So once you see the pop-up of the podcast come up, make sure that after you finish watching this episode, you go down into the description and click on the link, and that'll take you straight to the podcast that Gerry had on that particular subject. And then that's it, really. We've heard from most of the guides. Like I said, Johan is out and out of signal. Myself and Marlon head up to the Masai Mara on Saturday for a back-to-back 2-week session of Great Migration Safaris. It'll be the first time that I'm hosting a Great Migration Safari. Obviously, I was up there quite recently with Trevor for the rangers of the Mora Conservancy, but this is now a fully dedicated Great Migration Safari with guests, and it's going to be really exciting hosting it alongside Marlon. So I'm looking forward to the next 2 weeks in the Masai Mara, and I'll be sharing tons of stories and images and videos and blogs, etc., etc. So stay tuned, keep following the Wild Eye team, and lots of exciting stuff happening over the coming weeks and months. Once again, thanks for following us all, and thanks for your engagement. We always appreciate it, and here's to changing the way you see the world. Cheers for now.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Wild Eye Diaries. Alistair had asked if we could send through our segments a bit earlier in the week, and therefore my update comes to all of you from Mountain Gorilla View Lodge in Rwanda. And by the time you're watching this, I will already have landed back in South Africa. I've had quite a busy stint that is now behind me. I hosted Big Cats and Tuskers straight into the first week of migration, and I hosted a 5-night private gorilla guided safari where we enjoyed 2 gorilla tracks and 1 golden monkey. The guest I was hosting is a familiar face in the Wild Eye community, Linda Clues. We had an absolute blast, and yeah, I'm looking forward to a week in office before I head into the Kalahari. But before I do that, here are a few highlights from our time up on the mountains in Volcanoes National Park.
That's where the name of the river is from. And this family used to be in that mountain, but because of all the time gorillas they are moving because of food, so it's no longer that direction. Now it's a little bit that way. And it has 17 members, whereby we are going to see 2 silverbacks and this.
Do you have enough water with you? If not, I'll give you this one.
Okay.
Oh,
Cool.
We know what to do.
cool.
That's a very...
Shoot that, Linda. Watch your aperture, increase that a bit.
Okay, now you need to stand up. And you step up behind. You come behind.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Wild Eye Diaries episode 24, hosted by Al. From myself this week, it's been fairly uneventful. I've been in the office for just over a week now, catching up on a lot of admin work which I missed out on whilst on safari. So compared to the other guys, Jono, Gerry, they're in our Mara camp on safari having a good time. Johan is in Mana Pools and Chitaki Springs. He's had no contact with us, a very remote area. And of course, Mike is with the gorillas, also having an incredible time with one of our guests on a private safari there. So from my side, uneventful, but not a bad thing. Nice to be back in the office and working on some new content, catching up on emails and doing a lot of video content, which is really, really nice. Always really enjoy playing around with video content and learning new skills. And other than that, from me, it's not too much news. Put a couple new safaris out for next year. We've added another Serengeti week, which myself and Alistair are going to be hosting. My first week or 2 weeks is full, so that'll be live on the website soon. I've also got a Wangi and Mana Pools safari next year, which I'm really excited for. Haven't been to Wangi, have been to Mana, and really looking forward to heading back there. I was last there just on a little bit of a holiday a couple of years ago, so it'll be nice to be back in Mana Pools. And then lastly, South Luangwa, after seeing all the content and that Marlon's been putting together and the trips that he's had in the past, really excited to head up there and experience South Luangwa for myself. It's got the highest density of leopards and hippos in Africa, so that's bound to be a good safari. Otherwise, next week I'm not in office. I am taking a bit of leave, heading to the Kruger National Park with the wife for our 2-year wedding anniversary. So really looking forward to that, just to sit back, relax, and enjoy a bit of bush time with the family. And yeah, that's pretty much it from my side. I hope that you guys have had a good week so far and that you have a good weekend ahead. Enjoy the rest of the diaries, and I'll catch you in 2 episodes time. Cheers, guys.
Hi everyone, welcome to my insert for episode 24 of the Wild Eye Diaries. So I've just returned from an epic safari experience. I hosted a few guests in 2 iconic locations. One is Mana Pools and the other to South Luangwa. Whilst you know Mana Pools pretty well by now, and if you've followed me for some time, you will know that I really love it there. I wanted to spend a little bit of time to just showcase to you what we got to experience in South Luangwa. From start to finish, it was one of the best safari experiences I've ever had with Wild Eye, and even before. Some of the sightings stood out as the very best I've had, especially the lion and hyena interactions that we had. It started out pretty good right from the word go. I remember the first afternoon we spent probably 2 hours with a troop of baboons in an ebony grove and a small group of giraffe in the same vicinity, hardly 100 meters from camp. And we ended the day with lions about 500 or 600 meters from camp. Those very same lions actually came into camp during the night before and stole about 6 or 7 pillows off of the main lounge area, which again just shows how wild South Luangwa is. You got to see a great pack of wild dogs. We got to spend time with various different leopards. One leopard in particular gave us a great sighting that lasted about 2.5 hours. We followed her for over 3 kilometers as she walked along the banks of the Luangwa River, and we also got to see her interact with her own cub. She found her cub in her territory. The cub's about 1.5 years old, but she's already started pushing the cub away. So we got to see great sighting of her, rather aggressive towards the cub and pushing the cub onwards, and even interacting with hyenas along the way. By far the standout sightings of the safari were the lions and hyenas interacting. The first time was with a buffalo carcass south of Tenatena, the camp we stayed at first. About 6 lions or so feeding on the carcass. Hyenas came in, and the interaction between the two was incredible to see. But in the same time period, we also got to see the lions drinking from the Luangwa River, and we even had elephants crossing right behind the lions lying on the edge of the water. Scenes like that you just cannot pay for. Great to be in Luangwa for that time period and to see such a special sight. It was simply incredible.
Then we got to see our second interaction between lions and hyena while staying at Nsefu. So that was beyond special. We spent an entire day out from just before 10 o'clock in the morning until about 6 in the evening. We spent with these lions waiting out a buffalo that had got stuck in the mud. From what looks like, what happened was that the lions actually had a go at the buffalo, tried to catch it, and the buffalo escaped into the water and then got itself stuck. Well, the very next day, it had even bigger problems because on the other side of them, one side were lions and the other side was a clan of hyena. So sadly, the buffalo died of its possibly injuries, but I think also because of stress, and I think just eventually went into shock. It was out in that very hot sun all day, and so it wasn't in a good state. But in the afternoon, when the lions started feeding, the hyenas caught wind or caught sound of the lions busy feeding and ran in. And I've never seen such aggressive hyena behavior towards lions. There were 6 lions and only 3 hyenas, and within a few minutes the hyenas, only 3 of them, had pushed the lions out of the water and onto the other bank. They broke the spirit of the lion so much so that the lions abandoned the carcass entirely and it was left to the hyenas, and that next day went down. It was incredible to see the hyenas feeding on the carcass for the next day, and they finished it in one day, down to the bone. So just incredible to see. And our last afternoon ended with a great lion sighting, 2 leopard sightings, the one of which was fantastic. We heard the baboons' commotion. They were clearly unhappy with a predator, and we went closer to investigate and found a leopard running from a troop of baboons. Incredible to see, and it was right as the sun was setting on the banks of the river. So again, a beautiful ending to a wonderful safari. Couldn't have gone better. It is a magnificent safari experience, guys. It combines not only the very best predator viewing and an incredible amount of general game, but also an authentic old school safari experience, something the likes of which people must have experienced 100 years ago, and you still get that sense. The one camp we stayed at was built in 1953, so it gives an idea of just how beautiful the experience is, and I think the camps have gone out of their way to keep it like that. So I'm not going to share too much more with you. I'm busy with a few video updates and highlights. You'll see on Instagram TV, and you'll see also on YouTube. So when that's out, I'll be sharing it on social. But thanks for watching along, and do enjoy the rest of Wild Eye Diaries.
Hey everybody, so I'm sorry I'm only seeing an audio insert for this week's diaries, but I've got 2 reasons for it. Number 1, I'm in the middle of Kenya. I'm at our Wild Eye Mara camp, and this week particularly the internet is very, very bad. I'm not sure what's up. I blame Safaricom Kenya. No, I'm joking. I think it's just the weather, and there's been lots of rain, and hey, I'm in Africa. Number 2, the last couple of days I've been in the field from 6 in the morning to about 7 in the evening, so 13-hour days out on game drive. And today for me was one of the best ones I've had in a very, very long time. In a good couple of years, it was ridiculous. I mean, just everything about it. I'm going to do some podcasts and videos on it in due course. But for my entry this week, I wanted to just share with you guys, if you haven't seen it yet, a podcast that I did a couple of days ago, number 161, on the behavior of guides and guests in the Mara Reserve, Masai Mara Reserve, and how I think we need to talk more about this in order to not just save the experience for all of us and for guests and for guides, but also the animals. I think go listen to the podcast. I'm not going to go too deep into it, but I want to just give you guys a little intro to it based on what's happened since. I had a big bitch and moan on my Instagram story a while ago, a couple of days, week, about the behavior of some guides on the other side who properly messed it up. And there's been a difference. People phone the rangers and wardens, and it's hopeful. It gives me hope to know that we can actually make a difference by talking about these things. So go and listen to this podcast, and I would love for you, if you've been to the Mara or you're planning to go to the Mara, or if you know of someone who's going to the Mara, to please share this with them. Let's talk about this, because I do believe we can make a difference to the experience in this incredible place. So I was going to be adding the link to this particular podcast in the description of the Wild Eye Diaries, or just hit me up on my Instagram, Gerry van der Walt. I'll be happy to send it directly to you. And I'll see you guys next week again with a video insert. There's a lot of cool stuff I want to share with you. But yeah, for now, thank you for listening. Go and check out the podcast, and I look forward to hearing from you. Enjoy the rest of the episode, guys. My name is Gerry. I'm from Wild Eye. Chat to you soon. Bye.
Hi guys, so I've struggled to get this to Al because of the connections that we've been having out here. I'm currently in Mashatu, and today we're heading off to malaMala. So we've been here for the last 3 nights, and it's been a fantastic start to the 6-night private guided safari that I've been hosting for a family of 4. What I've really enjoyed is that these guys have come out here with a focus. So we've been focusing on big cats. And so whilst we've been driving around, we've seen a lot of general game, and we've had some really nice sightings of other things. We really have worked with the intention of getting to sightings and working particular sightings of big cats. And Mashatu's really delivered on that front. Really my first time out here from a photography perspective, after having done the Tour de Tuli and being in the adjoining Tuli block a number of times. But what's really struck me about this part of the world is, number one, the diversity, and then the clean backgrounds. Obviously grass, especially at this time of year, very short, nothing to get into the way of your frame, and that's made it quite interesting. We've also had some spectacular settings in terms of deep riverbanks. On our first morning out here, we had a leopard, a youngster, which was flushed from some fever berries, and she walked across the riverbed and then lay down at the base of a very steep riverbank, and that provided some incredible photographic opportunities and stuff which the guests really enjoyed. And then there are lions with cubs, and we've got some decent stuff of that. Nothing to write home about. They'd killed an eland in the couple of days prior to our arrival, so they were quite fat-bellied and in the thick bush. And then one of the other highlights has to have been those cheetah last night. If you've been following my stories on Instagram, you would have seen that we had a female with her 3 youngsters late last night, kind of last light in the afternoon. They attempted to chase down some impala. They weren't very successful, but we got some really good stuff in the golden light. And again, it was because we had a goal of trying to get to the big cats and focusing on the big cats that we got there in time, and we made the most of that afternoon light. And then on top of that all, the last 2 mornings we've been going into the underground hide here. Mashatu is well known for these underground hides, and it's been great. It's been a really nice experience. The ladies in the group joined us this morning and got elephants drinking up close by. We've had impala come down, kudu, eland in the distance, giraffe in the distance, lots of birds. Obviously the light yesterday was so much better. You can see there's a bit of a cold front that seems to have pulled in here today. So all in all, it's been a great trip. From here we head to malaMala for another 3 nights, and again our focus on the big cats is going to continue. So this itinerary has been crafted to kind of fit the brief and the focus for these guys of big cats. So what we may have missed out here in terms of lions, we're going to try and make up for over there, and then you can't get enough of the leopards, so we're going to spend a bit more time photographing leopard, try get some rimlet stuff with the evening spotlights, and yeah. So that's another 3 nights starting today, then back in the office from next week, and then hopefully I'll be able to share a kind of highlights reel from this private safari that I've been hosting with you all in next week's version of the Wild Eye Diaries. Right now, back to Al.
So that concludes this week's episode 24 of the Wild Eye Diaries. Thanks again to all the guys for some awesome submissions, and I really hope that everybody who's watched this episode has enjoyed all the hard work that the guys put together to showcase where we've been over the last couple of months and some insight as to where we're going to be over the coming months to come. That's it, guys. Thanks again for watching, and wish you all the best.